Order the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for August 21st, 2025. And the first order of business is review and approval of the June 19th meeting minutes, which were distributed to the committee in advance. Please quickly review them if you haven't, and if there are no revisions or corrections, I would call for a motion to approve.
I just have one quick.
Okay, Emily has
serious.
one.
Well, Bob Bowers has an S at the end of his name, and
Okay.
it's not in there.
Okay.
And that looks fine.
So, are there any other corrections? Okay, and a second?
Second.
The minutes have been approved, and we're pleased to have Ashley Seabold with us this evening, the new town administrator. She unfortunately isn't able to stay because she has a conflict, but she just wanted to introduce herself to the committee, and we're so pleased that she was able to accommodate her schedule to just come in and give us a brief message. Thank you.
Oh, of course. I am happy to come to the next full meeting. I will put it in my calendar. But happy to be here. Russ and I have had an opportunity to connect early on when I first started. We'll continue those conversations, but really happy you all are here and focusing on this. I think it's a big focus for a lot of people here in town, and looking forward to see what else we can move forward. I'm a New London native. For those of you that might, the very few people that might not know me, I'm a New London native, born and raised here. I went away to Boston for about 20 years and came back about 2 years ago. 20 years ago, Jessie Levine, who was a former town administrator, looked at me and said, "You're going to have my job one day," and we both laughed, and here I am. So I think she's pulling some puppet strings up there, but really happy to be here and happy with the work that you guys are doing, and looking forward to working with you more.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you taking the time from your schedule. I wanted to thank several committee members for their participation in the Strawberry Fest Kids Bike Tuning event, including Putnam Kidder, Grant Smith, Judy Ferrari, and Woody Kennedy for volunteering their time. We didn't have a lot of bikes to tune up, but we did get the word out to attendees for the committee, and it was sort of our first public exposure, so I just wanted to thank you for taking your time to participate in that event. So I will just give a brief chair update, and then we can go on to the remainder of the agenda items. I had an opportunity to meet with BB Casey very recently to talk about preparations for this meeting, and we touched on a couple of things. One is that the Montessori school construction on Main Street was approved by the planning board, and Liz Newhouse came to our meeting and asked for our feedback regarding pedestrian and bike access to the school. And my understanding is they are going to put in a crosswalk that's designated for the school. And the drop-off will be basically one way into the school and then exiting Gould Street. So that's just an update on that project. The Continuum Development Project and the Twin Pines project are on hold, as I'm sure many of you know, and she shared that there weren't other pending development projects at this time for us to review or consider. I briefly spoke with Adam Ricker, the town planner, and Sam Clark from Department of Public Works. Adam and Sam submitted to New Hampshire DOT a proposal to put a crosswalk in that was previously existing in front of the fire department, and also the plan would include a small pocket park between the fire department and Morgan Hill Bookstore, which is currently a vacant lot. This proposal is pending with New Hampshire DOT. Upon its approval, this project would commence in the summer of 2026. That's my understanding. I did speak with Adam briefly about the way station concept, which was part of the Walkable New London initiative that would be potentially located behind the chamber booth. And Adam seemed open to possibly combining that discrete project with the project that they proposed to New Hampshire DOT. So again, this is just very preliminary, but there's a possibility that there could be sort of a streetscape plan for that very immediate neighborhood, kind of around the library. But that would depend on the timing of both projects. I also spoke with Sam Clark from DPW, and you received in advance of this meeting a summary from Sam of the projects that they have pending. I had some photos to project, but the audio-visual is not working, so we'll just have to rely on his written description. And that includes, obviously, the painting they've done on the crosswalks. They use yellow paint in certain areas, including Elkins Beach, which were highly visible. They put highly reflective crosswalk signs in the middle of the street. They are working on a project on Main Street between Colby Sawyer College and the Catholic Church, which is going to be kind of a demonstration project of what sort of a sidewalk that is vastly improved. It would be 5 feet wide. It's a relatively level space, as many of you know. And that project is underway now. The construction is going on in that project. I did send to the committee, only a few hours before this meeting, photos from that project. They hope to have that completed by October 1. And as many of you may recall, our committee gave input on a tour with Sam last fall, and that project was sort of targeted as a potential. They're also working on accessible parking downtown, which may include disabled parking on Main Street right at the municipal parking lot. Anyway, I won't go through the entire report, but I think those are the highlights, and I wanted to ask the committee if they have any comment on Sam's update, any questions or concerns regarding that. Woody? Yep.
Only to say that these are very visible, they're very satisfying, and I hope that the paint lasts for a period of time. I don't know how frequently it needs to be done, but they're clear, they're sharp delineations, and it's great to see. I mean, it's one of the most positive things we've seen on this topic in a while.
Yeah.
Kudos to Sam.
One thing I didn't mention is the memo includes a comment which is that they plan to basically redo the sidewalks in segments all the way from Seamans Road to Hannaford's over a course of several years. There's a commitment to basically redo every section of sidewalk based on my understanding of this memo, which is really quite impressive. And very pleased with the work and the attention that Sam and his crew have put into these efforts.
So Russ,
Yes.
I basically just want to reiterate what you've said. I was really impressed with the content, the progress that's already been made, and the projection toward the future on a much shorter timeline than what I would have expected, assuming the town has the money to do all of these things. But congratulations to Sam, his team, on the work that they've done. It's very impressive, both in the report and physically in what he's done. So kudos to him.
Can I?
Yes, go right ahead.
I'd love to add my 2 cents. Sam presented at the planning board meeting last Tuesday the capital improvement plan, which is a build-out for the next 10 years in New London, and I happen to have it with me, but I can't tell you what he has done to try to save the town money. These are all the things that he's addressed since he's been here, whether or not we need this machinery, whatever else goes on. He said, well, we can postpone for several years. We've just found a truck that, I mean, I was just blown away by how his knowledge base was just phenomenal. I went up to him afterward and I just, it was just like listening to someone who had dropped out of the sky and just knew everything that needed to be done. It was fabulous. It was so impressive.
Yeah, I think his commitment to developing efficient solutions, cost-effective solutions is quite remarkable, and we're very pleased with his.
Yeah, can I just add that?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Again, same thing, Sam's a rock star, but he does have the whole sidewalk plan in the CIP, so it's all there with a plan on how to pay for it, and hopefully, I'm knock on wood, they can do it a little faster. Hopefully, as they're going along and proving and, figuring it out, they might be able to do it a little quicker. So that's
yeah.
just a hope. I'm not making any promises, but
Right.
he has the plan in place, which is great.
And the capital budgeting process are projections, right? It's not necessarily definitive financial commitments. It's more like projections of needs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we had scheduled Ron Rackow to come and talk about the area in Elkins in the vicinity of Bunker Road and Lake Shore Drive, but I don't see him here. So I think hopefully he will arrive. I did alert him that we didn't have audio visuals for his slides, but so I think we'll move on and then hopefully come back to that topic. The next item on the agenda is the Walkable New London initiative that I want to talk about pretty extensively. In talking to BB, one of the things that she stated was there may be whatever a ray of light, or there may be an opportunity for our committee to move forward with some planning and more activity if in fact the development projects that we now have pending aren't going to be moving ahead, and if the Department of Public Works and or the police facility are not approved this coming fiscal year because more extensive planning is needed, there may be an opportunity for us to actually complete some small-scale projects. And I hope I'm not misspeaking, BB, in terms of what we talked about. But what that got my attention because I think the previous conversations I've had with town officials are that there's going to be a lot of competing demands for town staff time, attention, and resources. That still may be the case, but there's this ray of light that might be shining for the next year or two for us if, in fact, none of those projects get really significant traction, particularly between now and December. So if that's the case, that would be wonderful news for us. And Since our last meeting, I spoke to small business owners, the Chamber of Commerce, residents regarding developing designated walking routes in town. The proposal was received very positively, and as I mentioned to you previously, I did a walking tour with Mark Vernon from the Conservation Commission in terms of possible connections between the Conservation Commission, trailheads, and streets and roads downtown. Again, I just want to make it clear that this initiative is not making significant infrastructure changes. It's more or less promoting the fact that we have several routes downtown that are not heavily trafficked and relatively flat. I met with a small group, which I've defined as the Walkable New London Interest Group, and here's some of the ideas that came out from that. One was recruiting existing downtown walkers or forming new walking groups to provide informal feedback to our committee on routes, road conditions, traffic patterns to further develop the proposal. And the routes would tentatively include a downtown walker recreational trail loop, 3 miles, a Conservation Commission trail connector loop that would be approximately 5 miles, a historic New London trail route that would be approximately 4 miles, and an Everybody's Nature Trail that could be on Messer Farm property or another property where there's flat terrain downtown but is not on the road, and that would be about 1 mile. Obviously, it would be ideal for this concept to be part of a grander kind of streetscape plan downtown. We don't have that in place, nor do we have sort of the planning mechanisms in place to do that right now. A central feature of this plan would be a way station that tentatively could be in back of the Chamber of Commerce information booth. They would have benches, landscaping, directional signs, posted map, kind of like the signage at Pleasant Lake. It would have access to Main Street by a footpath and or Pleasant Street. I took the liberty of preparing like a timeline for this project, which I'll share with the committee in terms of what we might be able to accomplish and what the potential costs could be. And I have extra copies if anyone in the audience would like one. You want to give one to Putnam? Do you have a copy? Oh, yeah. You're going to have to share. You'll have to share that with me. In talking to BB, one of the things she stated was, I was talking to her about the importance of having a bicycle and pedestrian master plan that is a subset of the town's master plan. I think you folks have heard this one before. Not surprisingly, but interestingly, she said, well, develop a proposal, and if it's not approved by the Board of Selectmen, create a warrant article for the funding for that. So that would be an ideal scenario, but this timeline is more focused on just achieving this particular project. And I've been in communication with a couple of landscape architecture firms about developing a schematic drawing of the way station and developing a narrative so that we could present this concept to other entities. And I've been in communication with Emily about presenting to the planning board at their October meeting. That would be October 28th. These cost projections are very rough estimates, and most of the cost would be around for the construction of the waste station, which I'm estimating between $40,000 and $50,000. I think in terms of volunteer materials and labor, I think we could get volunteers from the Conservation Commission, from maybe Kearsarge Trails Coalition and other entities, to assist us. And then we would actually focus on some private money, which would be maybe a one-to-one match up to $20,000. And then the commitment from the town would be $20,000 in this particular scenario. Again, maybe I don't know sort of whether this is a realistic scenario or not, but that's just sort of a very rough outline of the parameters of the project. After getting input from the planning board and getting feedback from other entities and stakeholders, we would submit the proposal to the select board meeting in December 4th. If the select board opted not to support the project financially, we do have the option of preparing a warrant article, and we'd have to do that in December, is my understanding, for the town meeting. Then from November until February, we will be developing various mechanisms for feedback. I presented previously a sort of a feedback mechanism that other towns have used. Kittery, Maine had used something through Wikipedia to allow the public to actually give direct feedback digitally about various routes or various obstacles or problems with the infrastructure. So, developing a mechanism like that for us to get sort of real objective feedback from the people who utilize the downtown streets and roads. And then, obviously, if we didn't get funding from the Board of Selectmen, we would be presenting at the town meeting a proposal for a warrant article. And then we would actually implement this project, which means the construction of the waste station and also the signage for the routes in the fall, basically, of 2026. And then we'd have an opening ceremony before the snow flies, which may or may not be November 15th. So anyway, this is a very, very rough timeline, but I thought it would be useful in terms of a discussion about practically how could we proceed with this plan, because we've been talking about it sort of on the conceptual level for several meetings, and I thought, well, let's just talk about how we could actually implement the project. So I'm going to open this up for discussion by committee members and also the public.
Quick question about the maps that we would put up if we have this one-year goal. Have we defined the walking maps, the routes?
Well, I did present at a previous meeting a very preliminary kind of schematic of like possible walking routes downtown.
So
those are not
basically-
finalized,
Okay.
but yeah, there is a digital map that kind of indicates what what those possible routes could be.
Okay, so we'll go with those.
Well, that would be just the basis for further discussion, yeah. I mean, it's certainly not final.
So this is great, the timeline is great, and we did talk about you guys putting together a project idea for all, to move forward, because I still think this is a great overview idea for I love the whole walkable initiative. One thing is that as part of the project where you were talking about, Sam and Adam have applied to the DOT to put that sidewalk back in front of the fire station in Morgan Hill. And they have a larger idea of making that whole area over there a little pocket park kind of a thing. And so I don't know if this can be incorporated into that. And so instead of having the weigh station behind the info booth, the weigh station would be on that piece of property. And then, not to say that the town wouldn't want to put money in, but there is money available that can be used towards that project and that Adam and Sam are thinking of. Now, having said that, we do have other things that are come up that we're going to need money for. So they've kind of put that project on their back burner at the moment, because as they're dealing with the DPW building. But I feel like these things should be done together, in concert with one another, exactly. But this is great, and I think this is a great project for this committee. It's spot on with your mission. So I look forward to hearing conversation from all the other members of how this can be put forward.
Other comments?
So Russ, just a question on what the schematic drawing of the weigh station might be. Can you give me some idea of the structure itself, size, and what we're looking at?
I think until we have someone with more expertise than I have in terms of like looking at a site, and I know what the sort of moving parts are, I know what the components are, but how to arrange them so they have the most practical benefit and the most aesthetic benefit, I think that's an open question at this point. But the reason that particular area was attracted to me is, one, it's town property. Two, the chamber would be a really great partner in terms of people would just sort of naturally gather at that space, and if they're from out of town, it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's an information booth right here, where do we want to have lunch? I mean, that's why I thought that's a more ideal spot for it, and it's large enough so that you could have a couple of intimate spaces, if you know what I'm trying to say. You could have like one space where there's sort of benches with some kind of central feature. You could have another space that's more interpretive about the town. Again, I have no architectural expertise at all, but as opposed to just having a large, voluminous space, make it, like several discrete kinds of environments, if you know what I'm trying to say. That's my thinking on it. The only, I certainly want to be in close communication with Adam and Sam on this project, but this project would not be contingent on New Hampshire DOT approval, because we're not actually making any fundamental changes to Main Street. We're not putting in a crosswalk or a sidewalk or whatever. And so from everything they've told me, that New Hampshire DOT it's a very bureaucratic and very convoluted process to get approval for even very simple things. So that would be sort of my hesitancy around that. But I acknowledge that ideally, we would be conceptualizing that entire space, in one effort, as opposed to having sort of discrete and unconnected things. I do agree with that point.
What sort of a footprint are you talking about, though, Russ? Certainly you can't find any more intimate space in that area than the information booth. Are you talking about commanding quite a bit of that town-owned property with this?
Well, I've walked in back of the chamber, and I just don't want to convey that I have more expertise or knowledge base than I have. I've walked in back of that space I think, with Mark Vernon, and also with the head of the chamber. And we were just visualizing, how people would access that, and, how it could be both kind of a rest stop and relaxation place, but also informational. So I can't tell you, if you're asking me, is it 40 by 60? I can't answer that question for you. I mean, there's a lot of space there that could be adapted. I mean, obviously, we want to be away from the existing building substantially, and obviously provide any kind of privacy screening that would be necessary for those existing buildings that are residences. But I don't have a lot more detail for you right now. Yes.
I think that BB's idea is a good one. The only problem I have is that there's no parking around the fire station and Morgan Hill. It's tight now, the way it is, and if people were to walk and park their cars, where would they put them, that sort of thing. That's why I like the idea of near the parking lot, the community parking lot right in town. And Keyser Lake has done a really nice project with a board at Horse Beach with all kinds of information there, which I think it would be, and they've got benches right at the table and.
Pollinator garden.
Yeah, and that to me, I think sounds like a good idea. Maybe copy something along that line. No?
Yeah, I think making a walkable downtown New London would be great. I think that there needs to be kind of like destinations, kind of like Emily's talking about.
Right.
Maybe we could integrate like a pop-up market or something. Maybe a space that somebody rents for a small business for a short term. Maybe there's like an art display for the elementary school, something that changes regularly to get people interested and maybe keep bringing people back to that location that we come up with.
Those are interesting concepts that, it could be changed seasonally, it could be changed in terms of its visual attractiveness.
Or like a food truck or a pop-up restaurant, like a to-go type of restaurant, walk-up window type of restaurant thing. I think that'd be cool.
Those are all great ideas. I mean, it's a blank canvas right now. But I will certainly, the concept is for discussion today, but the committee does have to sort of recognize and understand that there's work to be done in regard to this, and that individual committee members are going to have to commit to assisting myself and other committee members to prepare certain things. If we're going in front of the planning board, it's not something I'm going to be doing exclusively. I'm going to be approaching several of you to assist me in the development of these plans. So we're not going to I don't think we need a formal vote, but I just think it's very important that if it's the sense of the body of this committee that this is a sound concept that will provide clear and immediate benefits to the town, promoting walking and outdoor recreation, it means all of us have to commit to working on the project. So,
Can I just ask a quick question, Russ? Has the whole point of this is to be able to communicate to people visiting town a network of trails that are walkable and available around the town, right?
not just for visitors, but also
Well,
for residents.
For everybody,
Yeah.
for anybody who visits this area.
Oh, this, yeah.
So do we have that? Do you have that already kind of determined, that network of trails? I think that might have been what Judy's questions was. Isn't that kind of, shouldn't that sort of be the first thing?
Well, yes, we have, and we can review that again, but we have previously looked at a digital map
Okay.
that suggested routes. But obviously, that needs to be, in our presentation to the planning board in October, and hopefully, Emily, you can get us on the agenda for that meeting. That's the kind of detail that we would be preparing
Okay.
for that meeting, which is, what would be the specific routes, what would be the ramifications in terms of traffic flow and, concerns residents may have if it's a residential street. I mean, yeah, those are the kinds of things that we'd have to further evolve, yeah.
All Okay, last thing I'll say, I've just asked for flexibility on the location of it between what Adam and Sam have already put a lot of thought into and the information booth. But it sounds like some of you, and I don't know if we heard from everybody, sounds like so far people are preferring that spot behind the information booth, which is fine. But that's all I'm asking, is just to consider both sites.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also the concern that I would have about Jay, thinking about people coming in and out.
Traipsing in, yeah,
That might interfere with what's going on at
yep.
the fire station.
Yeah, I think that is a valid point in terms of the fire station, yeah. I mean, obviously, we want input from a lot of people around this plan. This is very preliminary. I mean, we want input from the police department, we want input from the fire department, and many other entities. Obviously, there's the preparation stage, and then there's the public comment stage. They have to be integral to the development of this concept. Yeah.
And I think it's a great concept.
Anyone from the public like to speak? Bob?
Bob Bowers, resident of New London. I love this idea, and I like Emily's thought of what's down at Kezar Lake, to have not a building, but sort of a bulletin board with a roof like whatever. But it strikes me that if you're looking at walkable, you want to keep them outside, not in buildings, for one thing. The other thing, I think the idea of using the little green, as they've called it, is perfect. At the walkable meeting they had that I attended, there was discussion, and I participated in having that green become sort of a pocket park, and your concept fits within that, and so I'm wholly supportive of it. I think you have to be very careful of picking a location simply because money might be available for it that's already in the works, and instead focus on what the purpose is and what the idea behind it is and what you're trying to do. And I would greatly favor the little green over the bookstore. I don't think people walk by there looking for trails. I think they may very well do so at the town green. I also think that, and I've talked to some people in the garden club, et cetera, about that being a little park, and I think one of the primary concerns is first, selectmen's approval to do something. Second, what does that involve? And third, and I hadn't thought of this until it was pointed out to me, what are there any ADA requirements to anything you do there? That becomes problematic, and I think they probably don't apply in certain circumstances, but you need to be conscious as you look through this. So the fourth part of that is, in my conversations, I think there would be public support and contributions, and I would be one of them, to support doing something like this. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any other comment or discussion regarding this matter? I guess I would just comment that if in fact we want to have a presentation in some form available for the Planning Commission in October, I'd appreciate getting some assistance on further developing the proposal. And I would ask, are there any committee members here who'd be willing to assist me? Oh, okay, great. So I think we will then schedule another meeting before our next scheduled meeting to discuss this further so that we can be well prepared. And I appreciate everyone's inclination to be helpful. So I will be in contact with you regarding the scheduling of that. If there are no further comments or concerns regarding the Walkable New London initiative, I see that we can now talk about the Bunker Road scenario, and I'm pleased to have residents from that neighborhood here. If you just introduce yourself, I apologize that we don't have the audio visuals for you this evening, Ron, but I did forward the photos to the entire committee. Unfortunately, it was several hours before this meeting, but I also forwarded the memo that you prepared, sort of outlining your concerns. So I'll let you give your brief presentation.
Green?
Oh, we need green. There we go. My name is Ron Rocco. I'm a resident of Bunker Road, and I'm representing a group of my neighbors on a concern that we've had, I think, for the last few years now, about just the area around Pleasant Lake. And I think we have issues that are in common with a lot of areas around town where it's recreational, where we have a lot of walkers, bikers, joggers, dog walkers, cross-country skiers, believe it or not, that are using the roads with motorists, and that presents some challenges. We had a selectmen's hearing, I think it was 2023, I think it was, that resulted in some feedback signs being installed on Bunker Road to try to slow people down there, especially in some of the critical areas. And I think we've had some success with that, and that's been helpful. But we still remain concerned about the larger issue of motorists sharing the road with those other important uses. And one of the, I think, the biggest problem areas is Elkins Road and Wilmot Center Road. And there, what we see is there's a lot of traffic there, particularly in the mornings and the afternoons. We do have a commute there. And I think what happens is that there's a lot of people in New London, Wilmot, even Springfield and beyond that use Wilmot Center Road and Elkins Road as kind of a cut through to Route 11 on their commute, so to get to Route 89. So there's people that are, I walk my dog there a lot in the mornings. I routinely see people going 35, 40 miles an hour, even through some of the narrower stretches. So vehicular speed is an issue that we've talked about quite a bit. But even for motorists, pulling out onto Elkins Road or Wilmot Center Road from either Bunker Road or Elkins Road or Lakeshore Drive can be quite a challenge because there's really some blind corners there. And unfortunately, we don't have the AVs, but I was very busy. I'm not going to give one to you. I got you.
Thank you.
We can share, for sure.
Okay, great.
There's that
Oh,
cute little
yeah,
cottage,
no kid in the bus like
the
that.
cemetery.
Welcomes to Wilmot's.
This is Elkins and Wilmot Center, so that's to the Oddfellows here.
Oh, okay.
So what I wanted to do is just kind of give you a sense, and sorry for the annotations there. I originally tried to do it with a Sharpie, but then it went through to the other side, so. But if you look at the first photo, and what I tried to do was, if I was a motorist in a car, and if I stopped at the correct place at the stop sign with my wheels, basically where the stop sign is, and I'm looking, some of the challenges at these intersections. The first one here, if you look at the White House on the corner, this is on the corner of Bunker Road and Elkins Road. And you can see there that it's very difficult to see very far down Elkins Road at all from Bunker Road when you're actually looking, that would be to the east, especially in the morning with the morning sun. There's also a lot of vegetation in that area. So as a cyclist trying to pull out into that during the day, very difficult. But even as a motorist, it's very difficult to pull out, especially with the speed of the cars there. The picture below that is the corner of Elkins Road where it intersects with Wilmot Center Road. And again, that's a stop sign from Elkins Road going to Wilmot Center Road. And looking to your right, if you're at that stop sign, trying to look there, again, we have vegetation there. Makes it very difficult to see down the road. There's also a curve on that road not too far from there. So it's really difficult for a cyclist or even a motorist to see the traffic coming from that direction. And then if you flip over to the other side, these are just two views of the intersection of Wilmot Center Road and Lakeshore Drive. The first one is if you stop, and I think I actually went a little bit beyond the stop sign there, but if you're looking to the east once again, down Wilmot Center Road from Lakeshore, that's where that big hill comes down, and then there's a big curve. So not only do you have vehicles coming down at a fairly high rate of speed because of the hill, but then you also have that blind spot that's created by both the curve and the vegetation. Again, very difficult to pull out there, either as a bike, a cyclist, or a motorist. And below that, this is the view of a motorist coming down Wilmot Center Road. And again, if you want to take that left onto Lakeshore Drive, with that corner there and the hill, it's very difficult to see oncoming traffic. So, even in the best case scenario where people are following the speed limit, these intersections are a challenge. If people are driving well above the speed limit, which many people are, some people are even driving army trucks down the road. It just makes it all the more the challenge. So, generally we'd like to see more slowing down on Elkins Road, but even the slowing down, we don't think that's enough. So what we have kicked around as a group, and we've talked to PLPA about this and others, is the idea of making all 3 of these intersections 3-way stops. So that way we avoid the chance of a collision between a cyclist and a car. I think it also would help slow people down in that very important area by the post office, the beach, the boat landing, and the dam, where, again, if people are coming through a high rate of speed there, where we do have a lot of pedestrians, it's really kind of a tight fit with the sidewalk there, and the other activities that are going on there. We think the 3-way stop would not only make the intersections safer and improve the ability for people to get out and make their turns. But we also think it would make it a lot safer for the people who are sharing the road with the motorists. So this is something that we would like to present to the town, but we thought that your committee was probably a good place to start and at least introduce the concept and kind of get your feedback and your thoughts on it. Did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Ron.
Ron, are you seeing any better traffic control or traffic calming from the new crosswalk signs that were put up? Are you seeing those as, because I know the new crosswalk sign that comes kind of from the Park and Go Market. There's that crosswalk right in front of the what is that? The Masonic Lodge. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you seeing that as kind of a way to people kind of are they coming into the stop sign a little slower, or is that improving the traffic flow over there? Is that improving pedestrian awareness? Like, how are you seeing that, and possibly adding more of those could be helpful or effective? Just a little feedback on that. I know you walk a lot over that way.
Yeah, well, I think the crosswalks and the signs are helpful for the pedestrians. I think the one by the beach in particular is effective in slowing people down because it's so narrow there. If you're driving really fast, you're going to risk hitting the sign. I've seen a few people actually do that. The problem with the one by the Masonic Lodge, however, is that generally speaking, I don't think people coming down Elkins Road to do the turns are the ones with the problem, because there's already a stop sign there and people are coming to the stop. The problem area is really the people who are traveling down Wilmot Center Road onto Elkins on that straightaway there. And those crosswalks aren't doing anything to deter them from driving quickly, unfortunately.
Yeah, you've just mentioned speed many times, and I was just wondering if we can address that problem as well. I think stop signs, like a 3-way stop, might just give a false sense of safety for pedestrians at some point. I don't know, and there's a lot of kids there, and that's what my concern is, that the false sense of safety from an additional stop sign. But you addressed the vegetation overhanging a lot of the roadways that way, and I noticed that because I knew you were going to bring this up tonight. When I was coming up towards Bunker Road on Elkins Road, where the White House is there on the corner, there is a lot of overhanging vegetation. Yep. If some of that could be cut back, possibly you'd get a much better line of sight coming out of Bunker Road onto Elkins Road. Maybe we could start there too, and try to find a way to slow the traffic down.
Yeah, I don't think in any of these that there's just one magic bullet, right? Ideally, if people all drove at 25, I think that would be ideal and would really help a lot. But that's not what we're seeing. We've talked to Chief Cobb about this. I think part of the police department's frustration is when they go to court, there's almost that 10-mile-per-hour buffer. Now, if you're doing that when you're going on 89 and you're going 75 instead of 65, that's only, a smaller percentage. But when you're talking about going from 25 to 35, that is a much larger percentage. And they're frustrated when they pull people over. A lot of times they can't get those tickets enforced. To me, whether the ticket is enforced, I really am least concerned about that. It's more the act of getting pulled over and slowing people down, even if we were just giving people warnings. So speed control would help, cutting back vegetation would help. But again, this is not just for pedestrians. I think, when I've talked to people around the neighborhood, just even pulling out there, even if you pulled back some of that vegetation, it's just really tough to see with the hills and the curves. I had a couple of additional pictures that were in the package that I sent to Russ that were just more in the middle. There was one by the alpaca farm. If you're walking, that's a really dangerous area because you've got all kinds of growth there, a curve. When I'm walking there, even in the mornings, I'm walking in the vegetation because I know cars aren't going to be able to see me when I'm coming that way. So anything we could do to slow people down, I think a three-way stop would certainly do that. I think it also may discourage people who are using that as part of their commuting route. I mean, instead of going down 4A to Route 11 and coming down that way, I think a lot of times they're doing that little shortcut there. And maybe if they had to stop a few times, maybe that would discourage people from using the route in that way, because it does seem like the mornings and the evenings are the more problematic times.
What would be a good solution by the alpaca farm? I'm looking at the picture right now. What other than widening the road, I guess I don't know if that's a possibility. What are your opinions about improving that section?
Well, that's another area where vegetation would help. But even in the wintertime when the vegetation isn't there, of course, then we have snowbanks. I don't know I'm not a traffic engineer, so I don't have any ideas there other than slowing folks down.
Don, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think you bring up an intriguing idea. The speed is quite a problem on the whole circumnavigation of the lake. And just wonder why you didn't include the other intersection, which in my mind is the most dangerous, and that's Bunker Road onto Pleasant Street. Knowing the traffic there, I guess if you included that might be a death knell to the whole project. But I'm sure you've looked at that site as well, but haven't included it with your projection.
Yeah, we haven't, and it's not to say that there aren't cyclists and pedestrians there, but I think in my experience and just from my observations, a lot of times I like to walk around the entire lake, so I am using that intersections, but there are a lot of people that don't like those hills there. So my observation is that there are fewer walkers and cyclists on that part of the road. I think for motorists, though, you're right. It's as much of a challenge there as it is pulling out on the other side. So it may warrant consideration from that perspective.
So in my history of the town, that's the one place we've had a bicycle fatality, is that intersection.
So I'm a neighbor to many of these intersections. I drive through Elkins Village at least once a day, and I also bike around Pleasant Lake.
Hopefully at 25 miles per hour.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And I'm not certain that the stop signs are the best solution for the problem. And I have no engineering background, but I do notice that cars coming out of Bunker Road onto Elkins, they don't stop. I mean, they roll through there. And if you're driving from the beach towards 11, it's an unpredictable situation because, let's say 80% of the cars stop, but there are like 20% that don't. They just kind of slow down and they just keep going through. So, I mean, there is, as you could appreciate, not uniform compliance with stop signs. In Boston, they're considered suggestions, of course. But I'm just wondering if having an engineering study of some kind, and I don't think it has to be, really extensive or really expensive, but I think that in looking at these intersections, they may warrant different kinds of solutions. They might warrant different kinds of approaches. So a combination of traffic slowing, better signage, better enforcement. I mean, a combination of those things. Our committee is not well qualified to give you those kind of detailed, guidance. Because we are an advisory committee, and I mean, this is a good community forum in terms of exploring the issue, but obviously we don't have the authority or the budget to actually develop the solutions. So, what I would offer you, and BB, maybe you can give some guidance on this, but maybe it's a discussion in a smaller forum, with the police chief, with myself, and with, a couple other, with Adam Ricker, the town planner, and Sam Clark, a more, a smaller discussion that would bring a couple of different perspectives to the problem. But I think that, and BB, you can add to this if you wish, but I think that in order to implement solutions, typically, you have to have data. You have to have sort of objective documentation about the nature of the problem. What is the frequency of the problem? What are the, there are survey tools that actually gauge risk. They make a risk assessment for pedestrians or cyclists, based on the volume of traffic, the terrain, as you said, the convoluted nature of the roads and the streets, and that those risk assessments provide some indicators of what the possible solutions may be. And I think you are correct in terms of seasonally, the risks are different, kind of, the seasonal conditions, whether there's a lot of vegetation, whether there's high snowbanks, whether there's ice. But unfortunately, I think it is true that it's used as a cutoff, or a cut-through, excuse me, for people coming from the Andover area or whatever to get to New London, or to Route 11. Because, I live on Wilmot Center Road, and unfortunately, my house is not near the road, but the folks definitely go 40, 45 in the morning through there. So, I mean, I don't know if that's helpful to you, but those are just sort of things I've been thinking about. BB, I don't know if you have any additional comments?
Yeah, just two quick reactions. Number one, on the roll-through stop sign. I mean, part of the problem there is even if I'm one of the roll-throughers because I do stop, but you can't see, so you have to roll out a little bit further to be able to determine whether you can go out there or not. So that's,
Yeah,
and
I would just say that you may come to a stop, edge forward, and stop again. I'm talking about folks who slow down but actually don't acknowledge that it's a stop sign. But go right ahead.
And then in terms of, are we open to other solutions? Absolutely. But as I mentioned, we've been at this now for 3 years, and we know that we'll probably be at it for another 3 and 3 plus that. But what we tried to be sensitive to here is just the budget environment in town. And so doing engineering studies, I mean, there's all kinds of things that we know will solve this issue. Speed tables, for one, would certainly be helpful in terms of slowing people down. But we liked the stop sign idea because, number one, we thought it would probably be one of the lower cost solutions here, and it would certainly slow people down, and it would certainly make those intersections safer. And the thing I liked about it is it helped improve things for both motorists and the other users, the pedestrians, the walkers, the joggers, and whatnot. So the reason that we really kind of focused on that was just because we thought it was something that would probably be relatively efficient to fund and then that it would also benefit motorists and the other users of the road. So that was just the thought process there.
We have the same issue on Old Main Street too, that it's a cut through and on top of the fact that it's a gravel road, but still people think it's a racetrack and go at least, including this one down here sitting beside me. No, I really appreciate all the time you're taking on this and your concern for safety, for speed is a problem all over town. And I appreciate you trying to find the cheapest way to do it, but unfortunately, it's not as cheap to just put up a stop sign. I checked in with Chief Cobb today, and the process to put a new stop sign up is you've got to do traffic studies and speed studies and things like that to get it approved. But I would just say keep having the conversation, come to the select board's meeting, meet with Chief Cobb, as Russ suggested, and you know, it's a problem all over town, and we talk about it on Old Main Street all the time. We have no through trucking signs on either end of Old Main Street, and you should see the 18. I work from home, and my window is right on the street, and I'm screaming all day at Young's paving trucks going up and down the street. It's awful. So I just say keep talking about it and I also got some data from her on Bunker Road. It seems like that might be getting better. I don't know, you live there.
Yeah, no, I think it has been better on Bunker. The feedback signs have helped.
Yeah.
I think when I'm out walking, I consistently notice that people will be approaching the sign above, and then when they see it flashing, they do back off in those important areas. So
Yeah.
I think it has helped the situation. But you know, as I mentioned to Grant, you know, there's no silver bullet here. I think there's probably going to be a number of things that we're going to need to do.
Yeah, it's hard too where our roads are so old. There's no way we can add a pedestrian lane or a bicycle lane on all of our roads, you know? Everybody's got to share we got to share the roads. And people can't be walking 4 across, you know, around Pleasant Lake, even though we all love to walk down there. Everybody's just got to work together and share the road. Yep.
So I'm Bob Ruggles, 823 Bunker Road. So, one, thank you for hearing from us. 2, as I watched Ron go through his presentation, I saw heads nodding that, oh yeah, you can't do that, you can't see, they stop, they roll through the stop sign. So I think everyone agrees there is a problem. And we worked for 4 years, on getting those feedback signs, and we understand cost. We paid for the feedback signs. Town didn't, we did, to put them up on Bunker Road. So we're not going to give up. We're not going to go away. And what we would hope for is assistance, help, support as we go through this process. Because when we did the feedback signs, we were sort of on our own. There was no one else. We met with Cobb, we met with everybody. We finally got it done. But we realized that help and support from others would be useful. And I think, you know, as I look at Putnam here, you know, we've got, you know, Elkins Beach, we've got the post office, we've got Marshalls, we've got the boat ramp, we've got the dam. I mean, there's so much going on in that little space. And people, I walk my dog over from Bunker Road to go to the post office, you know, every day. And you see these issues every day. And so we need to do something before, you know, we really have a catastrophe. I mean, you know, you mentioned up on, you know, Pleasant and Bunker. It's inevitable that something will happen. So we will stay with us, and we just, one, appreciate you having us here this evening and your support as we go forward. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for joining us to discuss this problem, and I think the committee recognizes and acknowledges the seriousness of it. And I would certainly want to continue to be in touch with you, Ron, in terms of next steps and any guidance from BB or other town leaders would be helpful in terms of, what could be the possible remedies, whether they be low cost or more costly. I think it is truly a bottleneck, that area of Elkins Village. There's no other way to put it. So I do appreciate your comments at the meeting today. Thank you again. Yeah. I think we'll proceed with a brief report on the Kearsarge Trails Coalition activities. I had the pleasure of participating in a meeting with Grant with the Conservation Commission, and maybe you can just give us a brief update on your plans. And I'd also, if you don't mind, you were sort of talking about the evolution of your organization to the New England Mountain Bike Association, like chapter status. Because we do want to, one thing I have conveyed to Grant is we want to be sort of explicit about that organization's purpose and activities and how it differentiates from the work that we're doing, so there isn't sort of public confusion on that matter. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so a lot has happened since our last BPAC meeting in that we established a board of directors. So that has allowed us to get a lot more done in a short amount of time. We've got some fantastic folks that have stepped up. Josh Satley, Rebecca Oxman, or Losman Oxman, Stephanie Wilkes, my wife Crystal Smith, Josh Worthen, and myself have all kind of joined together to move this initiative forward. We've spoken a lot to NEMBA, who is New England Mountain Bike Association. They are originated as a mountain bike organization, but have kind of transformed into a multi-use trail group. We've spoken with them about starting our own chapter, which they are very supportive of. Josh has a lot of legal experience with nonprofits, so he is actually working on an agreement that NEMBA can share with their other chapters, a much more binding legal agreement relationship-wise that NEMBA will have that they can share amongst all of their other chapters, and they probably have 8 or 10 all over New England. So we would be starting a new chapter here, which is exciting because it would give us kind of a turnkey operation as far as the nonprofit status, the insurance for labor that we get for volunteers on the trails. We'd have insurance coverage for them. It would be an easy option for marketing initiatives. And they also have a membership program, so half of the funds garnered within our chapter would come directly back to our chapter. And then also 100% of any money we were to collect through donations would come right back to our chapter, 100% of it. So people will ultimately have the option of supporting our trail system. It'll be a local initiative, and all of the money will stay here. It won't go back to the mothership in Boston. So that's a huge advantage. So we started the board of directors. We started the NEMBA talks, and additionally, yesterday we had a long meeting with the Conservation Commission. It wasn't supposed to be long. It was supposed to be 15 or 20 minutes, but it ended up being, probably 45 or so. We presented our initiative and our vision, and naturally they had questions. We anticipated kind of just familiarizing them with what our goals were. They were looking for some kind of solid plans that they would like to see, and we need to go back and kind of build on those plans. And they right away offered 3 representatives from the Conservation Commission that they would like to work with us and support our initiative as well. So I think it was a very successful meeting. I'm very optimistic about working with them and partnering with them. We have a little bit of a unique situation being a nonprofit where we can get our funding from. The New London Conservation Commission is kind of limited for their options for funding. So we think we can provide a lot of labor, and also funding to expand some of their visions and goals as well. So we're really excited about it. They're looking forward to having kind of a younger youth injection into their program. So I think we can definitely provide that for them as well. So we're going to continue our talks with them, and certainly excited about working with them. And Russ was wanting clarification too. He, with the Bike Walk Coalition, you know, there's certainly more of a on-road kind of focused group, while we are kind of more of an off-road focused group. So we're going to, you know, work in parallel with each other, but, you know, we're certainly more of a trails-oriented organization versus a kind of a bike walk pedestrian organization, you know, outlining traffic flow and walkable New London. That's not really our focus or our goal. So while we're going to parallel with us and the Selectmen Advisory Committee on these options, not something we're focused on.
You want to talk a little bit about the Lion Brook Trail as a possible candidate for a multi-use?
Yeah, so the Lion Brook Trail has been floated a few times as an option for a multi-use trail. I've walked the Lion Brook Trail, and it does definitely seem like it has a lot of potential. Our main focus first for the multi-use trails would be to generate an artery trail. My best kind of description of it would be an off-road sidewalk, so that people can get from point A to point B in town. So improving the Lion Brook Trail, it does definitely have some challenging sections for just even casual walking. You know, I know that the Conservation Commission, their whole goal is to be an accessible kind of network for all ages and all abilities. So I think the Kearsarge Trails Coalition could really work with them to improve that, not only for biking, but also for walking for older folks. You know, there's a lot of roots, there's a lot of rocks. You know, we would hope to improve some of the terrain there. But yeah, so ultimately the Lion Brook Trail would be kind of the beginning artery trail. We would ultimately extend the artery, or hope to extend the artery, from Spring Ledge all the way down to Colby Sore and loop back around to the Lion Brook Trail. And then from there, we would have a spoke and wheel kind of scenario where our group would build trail networks to some of the existing Conservation Commission trails, ones that are deemed appropriate for bikes or multi-use options. And ultimately, we'd be able to connect those, I feel like, underused Conservation Commission trails back to the main street. So people could do a loop, you know, get to a destination and then loop back to Main Street, which I think a lot of people are interested in connecting businesses and the elementary school and so many of the stuff that we offer downtown to the trail network, and offer better way to, you know, off-road type of transportation around town, a much safer option for kids that are trying to get to the outing club, that are trying to get to the elementary school. It would be a huge improvement for myself included. You know, seeing my kids out on the street is tough. On Main Street, you know, Ron expressing, you know, the safety concern of speeders. You know, we have speeding down Main Street. If you open a car door on Main Street, the traffic has to stop. It's so narrow. So it'd be a viable option, I think, for improving network and flow through Main Street as well.
Yeah, I would, I mean, I find it very impressive, the enthusiasm of some of the people that are engaged in your effort, you know, and it's really multi-generational. It's really opening up another opportunity for outdoor recreation to folks who, you know, don't really have that option locally. I mean, you know, you have to drive. And as you have stated before, you know, there are benefits to towns that have developed off-road trails, you know, economic benefits, attracting visitors, people visiting their family, relatives, you know, bring your mountain bike, you know, we can spend the afternoon together kind of thing. So, and I also think that the New England Mountain Bike Association provides a great framework for your organization, because there's a lot of expertise and experience there that could be brought to bear in our situation. So I would certainly encourage that. I'll open it up for discussion from other members.
Very curious to see, and this is the second time it's come up in my mind today, is to have a better idea of what specific trails you have in mind and what specific trails we have in mind for walkable New London. And some of these may be multi-purpose, there may be some overlap. I think it's important to know that. Multi-purpose does mean that you do have cyclists coming through and walkers and so on, and so there could be some safety management issues associated with that. So no, I think we're at a stage where the Conservation Commission is asking for more detail. You have presented, but it's, you know, it's still not known for, it's not finalized, but I think beginning to bring these together would be helpful since they're happening at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. So our initiative really is, it seems that the Lion Brook Trail is going to be, the Conservation Commission themselves have floated that as an option multiple times. We see it as a great option for multiple times, just for the artery idea, the location to downtown, the ability to navigate around the town. That trail just seems like a great option for that. And we're looking for input from the Conservation Commission on what trails they seem suitable for bikes and improvement. So there's probably some sections that are very sensitive that we're not aware of, and we certainly don't want to impede on any sensitive property. But if they have ideas that they've presented a few other trails as well, and I personally have to walk them and see. We've also worked very closely with the Central New Hampshire NEMBA, and they have a lot of access to Concord's Conservation Commission has developed a manual, like literally a trail manual that says, if the trail meets this criteria, it's a great option for a multi-use trail. If it doesn't meet this criteria, it should just be a hiking or walking trail. So we have a lot of resources and expertise that's funneled down from them that will help guide which trails are good candidates, and along with our own Conservation Commission, we'll be able to identify which trails we'll improve on.
I think in the discussions with the Conservation Commission, there's a recognition. Obviously, we have a lot of seniors in town that use the Conservation Commission trails, and there has to be specific accommodations, such as making trails one-directional, having signage, mountain bike trail only, which a lot of trails in the White Mountains, they're designated as a mountain bike trail. I mean, you can walk on them if you want to, but that it's for mountain bikers. So those kinds of accommodations have to be clearly and explicitly defined.
I'd like to share with our group, my wife made a beautiful slide presentation that we tried to provide to the Conservation Commission, but the AV wasn't working for the meeting. So luckily we had printed copies, but I'd love to share with our whole group the link to the presentation that she provided. So
yeah, I'll send that out. Yeah, okay. Are there any other questions, comments about Grant's presentation? Thank you very much for the update, and enjoyed working with you on this. So, do we have any other comments or any additional comments at this time from the committee or members of the public? If not, I'll just remind the committee that our next scheduled meeting is October 16th here at 5 o'clock. But I will be in contact with the committee about meeting previous to that relative to the Walkable New London initiative. And I'll be in communication with you, Emily, about scheduling for the planning board.
We should have some sort of a work session where everybody can.
Yeah, right, yeah. And,
Before the 16th.
right, yeah. But you will facilitate getting on the agenda for the 16th. Thank you so much. If there are no other points of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second? Second. Thank you very much, everyone.